In this lesson, we'll look at how to pay some bills. So in previous lessons, we've got our project up and running, and been going about a week or so now. So things are looking pretty good. We've sent out our first invoice, and yeah, things are moving along. What we do unfortunately need to do as well though is pay some bills. So in the previous couple of weeks that we've been running, some bills have come in and we need to deal with those as we go through. So we're on the Discuss app, which is where we land when we log in. We'll go down to the accounting module. And now we're on the accounting dashboard. We can see that I've got a couple of invoices here. I've got one invoice here. I've got one that's unpaid and one that's late, which is the one and the same invoice. And that's the one invoice we created in the previous lesson. I've got my $500 in cash. I've got my cash drawer just in case I need it. And then I've got my money in the bank. And I don't at the moment have any vendor bills to deal with. So let's go and have a look at how we can create those vendor bills. So we go to vendors and bills. And remembering that when I create an invoice myself, I give that to a customer. That customer then treats that as a bill because it's their bill to pay. It's our invoice to create becomes their bill. Likewise, when my suppliers give me an invoice, that's really my bill to pay. So keeping these terms in context, I like to really be clear about someone else's invoice to me is my bill. My invoice out to someone else is an invoice for them. I've invoiced someone. And I've got bills to pay, invoices to collect money on. Basically what it boils down to. So when we use the term bills and invoice, sometimes people use them kind of interchangeably, but it really is a matter of context. So with that aside, let's go and pay some bills. So we'll assume that a bill's come in via PDF or whatever else, and we've got two bills. I think one we'll do is out for our phone and internet, and yellow one will be for insurance. So let's go to vendors and bills, which we've done, and now we're on the bills page, and we don't have any bills that we've registered yet. So let's create a new one, and it gets a bill number. And the great thing about this system is it gives you a reference point, a label at the start that indicates what type of document you're creating. In this case, we're creating a bill. Earlier we created a sales order that had an S at the start of it. If we created purchase orders, we don't have the purchase order module installed, but I was just trying to think of another example. It would have a P at the front, so you can tell pretty much straight away what type of document you're creating based on the I'll call it a prefix. So we've got a vendor to select now. And really we've only got our contacts here. So Cameron's our customer, and McKinley Consulting is our business, and we are Morgan. So we don't really have a vendor registered here. You might be wondering why I can see my customers and things here, and that's because a customer can also be a supplier as well. They can also be the vendor. So you can buy and sell goods to the same person, so they become the vendor when I buy things from them and the customer when I sell things to them. So therefore it makes sense that I can see my customers here as well. So let's call this phone company. Nice and generic. And you'll notice that because I don't have a contact there already, it's asked me, do I want to create one? I'll say yes, I do. So here I can fill in all the details there, and we've seen this a couple of times now, so I won't go through it again. We can settle those details about them. But in this case, just get on with the lesson. I'll just save it now, and we can always go back to it through clicking this little link button, or I can go through the menu down to contacts and go in that way. We'll give it a bill reference number. So the bill would have come from the telephone company and they would have called it an invoice. So invoice, I would assume, might start with a prefix of INV in their system. But having this reference here means we can cross-reference the documents they sent us with with our own. And this might be, I'll pick out some numbers, 76768, why not? Payment references, we can put that in there, but we haven't made the payment yet, so we will leave that. Recipient bank, that was I'm assuming that we're paid this either via maybe a BPay or a periodic payment. Maybe it's a direct debit, maybe it's whatever, but the mechanics of that are not really what we're trying to explore here. This is really how we register the payment and the bill and the payment in the system. If this was a bill that was associated with a purchase order, then we'd be able to pick that purchase order out of here. Now, as I mentioned, we don't have purchase installed in this instance. It can be installed if you need to use purchase, but for the sake of this course, we're not going to be using purchase orders for our suppliers. We'll just be paying bills as they go along. Bill date, you'll notice that it's not highlighted, however it is a mandatory field, and it catches me out nearly every time, but this is a required field, so I always make sure I put in the date there, and I can guarantee before this lesson is over, before this course is over, I will have forgotten at some point to put that date in there. I can set the due date for this, so it might not necessarily be today that it's due. It might be in 4 days' time or something like that. I'll leave it to today for the moment. If the bill had terms, we could put that in there as well. Might be 14 days, might be 30 days, whatever. I can see which journal it's going to hit. It's going to hit the vendor's bills journal, and it's in Australian dollars. So that's the information about the bill. Now let's get to the bill detail itself. And so what we'll do is we'll add a line to this bill. Now these products are our products. If I click here, you can see they're a list of our products. Well, we're not buying our products, we're buying their services, so we don't need to fill this in at all. We can skip over that. I'll just click away just to get away from it. But we do need to put a label in. A label is important. So here, this might be phone and internet. And what I also think is a good habit to have is IMV 768. So even though we've got the reference up here, having it on the line means that if I'm ever looking this through the journals, I can see straight away the reference there, and it's just a little bit more complete, and there's a bit of a safeguard there. The next is an asset category. This is not an asset that we're getting billed for. We're getting billed for a service, so that's not really relevant. If we're buying a car or buying something else, that might be a different story, but in this case we're not. Account, we've got to specify the account, and by default the account is the cost of goods sold, 510 110. But this is not a cost of goods sold, this is just an expense for our business. So I could put in there office expense, and there is an account called office expenses, so I could do that. Office expense tends to be a bit of a catch-all for people. It's just a convenient way of dumping a lot of stuff into one place. It's a bit of a miscellaneous type account. However, for reporting purposes and that kind of thing, or maybe if you're doing meals or something that's got special FBT elements to it, it's best to put them in separate accounts if it warrants. It does, at the end of the day, depend on your particular needs. But let's go back, and I will put in telephone because I know that there is a telephone one here. So awesome. Now, all I need to do when I do my report and I want to know how much I spent on telephones for the year, I can go to that one account and bang, I can see all my information there. Next thing is quantity. Well, there's only one unit of, I'm getting, it might be a monthly bill, but this is a one unit I'm going to pay for, and it might be $90. For the un-GST amount, non-GST, and when I click away, it then fills in the 90 as a subtotal. It adds in the GST here, and it's $99. So that's great. If for example, now this is a little bit more advanced, but if for example I wanted to put in here the $99, I would then need to change the tax to GST included in the purchase for the service. So this is the one that was on by default. But if I say that this price number already has GST included, I can click that one, and you'll notice that it's correctly put in the right prices there. So let me go back and I'll put in $90 there. I'll get rid of that tax by clicking a little cross. So at the moment there's no, oops, I'll go back. There's no tax on it. But I do need to put a tax on it because we're buying something, and this is the one that's active by default. And you'll see that it's got $90 in there and so forth. Now the reason why I'm showing you that is because sometimes you get bills that don't really clearly say, they'll say here's the $99 and here's your 9%, your 10% of that that's been added to that. In order for me to work out, and sometimes they don't tell you the untaxed amount. So you know you got $9 of GST and the total is 99, but you don't know this number. Now 90, 99, pretty easy to work out. You divide that by 11 and you get 9. That's not too difficult. But if it's an odd number, then sometimes it can be difficult to work out. So what I might prefer to do is change and put this 99 in here, which is the full amount. And then I just need to tell the system that this is included. It's already got the GST included in the price. And you see it correctly works it out. A little bit of an aside, but yeah, just so you know, there's multiple ways to deal with that. All right, keep going. We've got this ready to go now. We've got everything looks good. We've got the right label. We've got the right account. We've got the right quantity. We've got the right price. We've got the right GST being calculated. It's all looking good. I've got my date in there, which I will forget at some point in time. It's got an account date. I've got a due date. It's all looking good. Okay. We can save, which we'll save it as a draft, but let's assume that this has already been paid via, let's say, bank transfers, and it's already been paid, and really we're just playing catch up here. What we can do too, what I will do, I'll save this first actually. So now I've saved it, I can come down here and click on this little paperclip, and that opens up the attachment. So if I want to, I can add the original PDF that I was sent directly to this bill. So if I'm ever looking back at this bill in the future, I can see the actual bill that was attached right here to this document. So that keeps everything together. Everything's in one place, starting to go fishing for things. And so if I'm ever, God forbid, audited or something like that, I can see exactly where the bills were, the invoice I got, how much I paid, blah, blah, blah. Cool. I can also print these out from here as well. Click the print the invoice and the payment, and this is where the language kind of gets it a little bit wrong because these are bills, not invoices, but as I said, that was context thing. And I've also got actions here where I can do things like duplicate it, which is really valuable. So if this being a monthly bill, I might want to duplicate it rather than recreate it from scratch every single month. I can just go open up a previous bill, click action, duplicate, and fill in the little bits of detail I need to, and I'm done. So this took us maybe, without all the distractions and things, it might take you 2 minutes to create from scratch, but it'll take you 15 seconds if you just do a duplicate and then change the bits you need to. So let's confirm this bill. And now we're in a position where we've confirmed the bill's ready to go. What I can do is register a payment now. But just before I do that, I'm going to jump out and then come back. I know it's a little bit distracting, but let's just jump out back to our overview, and we'll notice that we've got a bill to pay. So we might have said that this bill isn't due for another 3 weeks. So I don't really want to pay it right now, but I do want to put the bill in the system so I know it's coming up, and so I can do that and just leave it now and wait for 3 weeks and then I'll pay it. But I can go back to vendors and bills, or I can just click straight here and it'll take me straight back to my bills. Open up the bills again and I'm back into it. So I'm back where I was before when I jumped out. So let's say it's time to pay this bill. I can register a payment from here. If I had a credit note or something, I could add that here. So credit note means I've got some credit for some reason. And if I want to track that, I can add a credit note here and I can reset it as well. Let's go and register a payment. So it's coming out of bank. This is a manual payment. Well, it was automated through direct debit, but I'm entering the way I'm managing it is through manual effort. If I was a big business, I may look at things like ABA transfers, which create a list of transactions to carry out, and then you upload that one big list of transactions to the bank, and it goes through and processes all those transactions. A little bit outside the scope of what we're looking at here. This is just a small one-man business, so we'll keep it simple and keep it as manual. We've got the amount there to be paid, the date to pay it, and the memo has been brought through. The reference has been brought through as a memo on this payment. So register payment now, and it's been marked as being paid. That's awesome. So let's go through and create our insurance one now. So I can go back to the breadcrumbs and bills, or I can go to vendors and bills, same thing. I'll click create, and this is for insurance brokers, PL, or why not? I'll create them as well, fill in all their details, won't bore you with that again, go update it anytime we want. Now their invoice might be, maybe they start with IB as their prefix for their bills for some reason, maybe just insurance brokers, and it might be a couple of numbers there. And I'm going to get lazy and I'm going to copy that, so I can use it down here in the bill like we did before. I'll put in the bill date of today. I'll leave that as normal. I don't think there's much there you haven't seen before. Add a line. So here's my label. Put insurance, and then put in the reference number again for some reason I did before. And this time this will go to a different account. So maybe I don't have an insurance account, maybe I do. Let's have a look. And I do. So I can say this is insurance. Larger organisations tend to use things like prepaid insurance. That's where you might pay your insurance at the start of the year. But then when you're recognising it, you wanted to break it down into maybe your monthly contributions, because they treat these things as assets that you use up over time. For this small business, we're not that worried about it. We'll just go with insurance. Again, there's one, and that might be, let's say we're paying $300, and that's a yearly cost. And if I click away, again, we've got that same thing where if we want to, we can change the way the tax is calculated. So we might put the $330 in here, change the other tax, and blah, blah, blah. We've seen that before. We can go into the account settings and change it so the other method is our default. But it's really how do you want to do it? It's up to you. Okay, so we'll confirm this one. And we can still add our documents here if we want to, but that's right to go now. That's posted. I can register a payment here. Manual. Yeah, I'm just going to do it the same as we did last time. And it's in the paid, been flagged as paid now. So let's go and have a look at our bills again. So our vendors bills, and now we've got our 2 bills here. So this is good, but I'm not sure. I can see they're being posted, but I'm not sure which ones have been paid yet. And yeah, I could go to the dashboard to see it, but from here I can't. I've got my list of bills here. What I can do is click on those 3 little dots and go down to show. Remember, these ones that aren't ticked are ones we can display in the list. So I'll tick this as the payment status, and I can see they've both been paid. Awesome. So they're pretty much done, ready to go. If they weren't, maybe they were, some of these bills may have been due in a month's time, then we wouldn't register the payment, and we'd have a not paid or words to that effect in this list. I find this is just a handy one to have turned on all the time anyway, so that's part of the reason why I'm just showing you. Let's go back to the overview. I don't have any bills to pay because they've been paid. I've still got the same invoice there, I've still got the same cash, but over here in the bank I can see I've got minus $429 as an outstanding payment. What that's really saying, yes, it's saying outstanding payment or receipt. It just hasn't been reconciled yet. And then in a future lesson we'll look at how to reconcile these amounts. So reconciling just means that what we've got in our bank in the system matches what we've got in our bank and we do that through importing a bank statement into the system, and then reconciling or linking up that payment to that bill or that payment to that invoice, and that's a reconciliation process which we'll talk about in another lesson. So what we've done here is successfully created and paid some vendor bills, and that's where I'll leave this lesson. I'll see you on the next one.